Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, Elon Musk has a supporter. He can use him, he doesn't have a lot. In this case, I'm talking about Anas Haqqani, a senior Taliban leader who has viewed this ongoing war between Twitter and Threads and believes that the Taliban should come down on the side of Twitter. Here's the argument. Twitter has two important advantages over other social media platforms. The first privilege is the freedom of speech. The second privilege is the public nature and credibility of Twitter. Twitter doesn't have an intolerant policy like Meta. Other platforms cannot replace it. So he's a senior Taliban leader. He seems to believe our interests will be advanced by the way we're treated by good platforms like Twitter. Whereas in the case of Meta, they still actively are trying to shut down accounts affiliated with the Taliban, who I will remind you in recent weeks has found way more rights to strip away, particularly from women in Afghanistan. Francesca, what do you think?
It's very fitting. Like, I love this. I mean, effectively, the American Taliban is on Elon Musk's side, so why not the OG, the original Taliban? Of course, supports Elon Musk. But so I love that. It reminds me of when was it Osama bin Laden's niece? Was a MAGA fan, like was wearing a MAGA. And you're like, it's almost like fascists and conservatives and religious zealots around the world all have something in common and like each other. Of course, they're gonna ultimately like do battle and use us all as cannon fodder, but they like each other.
Yeah, look, there are reasons to have an issue with Meta, especially the effect that it's had on a lot of countries' politics. But I don't know that this is the sort of endorsement that Twitter needs at this particular time as Threads is ramping up, which by the way, we're both on, so follow us. And meanwhile, in Portugal, the police have said earlier this week that they're taking legal action, actually a lawsuit against the authors and broadcasters of an animated cartoon that was run last week by the public television channel RTP that denounced alleged systemic racism in security forces. Why don't we show you the actual cartoon and then we'll discuss. So that ramps up. That's a hard-hitting ad. It points out what they're saying is basically is that they're far more predisposed to violence. The darker skinned the person they're dealing with is. Now they have said the Spam cartoon studio that made it that this was not about their police necessarily. They were responding to the situation developing in France, obviously, and yet the police believe that suing a cartoon studio over this is the right way to go. What do you think, Francesca?
Yeah, it's fun to know that police are petty around the world, and it's not just here in the United States. So hey, that's great. All the little things that they waste their time doing instead of keeping people safe. I don't know, Portugal. What are y'all doing? Like haven't they defunded in Portugal? Aren't drugs legal and people get a lot of paid time off and stuff? Like, well, you don't need the police. You've got the famous dish I don't remember and the dance thing and the other I don't know.
You're a world traveler. If you don't know who's anything. Going to.
I know nothing about. Okay. You've got gondolas in the
Do they? I don't know.
I think so. I think Lisbon has that.
But anyway, that's entirely possible.
No, the other ones.
Send a TDR delegation to find out. In any event, don't sue cartoon studios. That's my general rule. Just ignore it. It would be my advice. You're not helping. They're only gonna make more because they know now that you're watching and that you're easily triggered by this, and so not necessarily the best PR move.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.